Is that accurate? And what, if any, kind of meaningful relief can Congress provide that would actually help your clinic in Lansing, Michigan, and help those in public health respond to this pandemic?
Thank you, Senator, for the question. I think flatly the answer to your first question is no, it is not accurate. People are still dying every day. In fact, 1,000 Americans each day are dying because of COVID. And there's a lot that Congress could be doing to help my patients. You could be potentially expanding unemployment, giving people cash assistance. My patients are having difficulty paying rent. I have patients who are finding difficulty even getting food to eat every day. I have patients with difficulty affording medications. And so my patients are facing real life challenges, and they can't afford to wait for an election. And they can't afford for Congress to continue with the hyper-partisanship that we're seeing. They need action now. And that's one of the main reasons I came today, was to advocate on behalf of my patients, specifically, giving people access to health care. Anybody who has a COVID-related illness shouldn't have to worry about going bankrupt because of that illness. And then making sure that we protect those people moving forward so that they don't lose their health insurance at any point in the future because of their pre-existing conditions. So those are just some of the things that I think could be done to help protect my patients and help them get a leg up.
Thank you, Doctor. It's my hope that we will find a path in these last 3 weeks before the election to actually deliver a meaningful bipartisan package. It should be robust, and it should provide resources, particularly for grassroots medical clinics. Ms. Staggs, I appreciated your advocacy around the health care of your children. You've spoken about how the Affordable Care Act is vital to keeping your children healthy and safe. My colleagues have said over and over again they want to repeal and replace the ACA. One of my challenges has been finding the replacement plan. Can you tell me what their replacement plan is for the ACA?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Now I can.
A few weeks ago, President Trump was here in Charlotte and signed an executive order that he said would protect pre-existing conditions. First of all, the Affordable Care Act is a whole heck of a lot more than protections against pre-existing condition exclusions. Second of all, the executive order that was signed per White House counsel had no legal effect. It was a great idea, but I have to tell you, like you, I remain all ears and incredibly eager to hear and see and read and consider an effective replacement plan. I know that my own Senator Tillis, is he in the chamber today?
He's no longer here. He was earlier.
Okay. I know that Senator Tillis has put forth what is called a PROTECT Act that uses the term pre-existing conditions, but in effect doesn't meet the standard that we currently have with the Affordable Care Act. So I would just say to that the American people are on pins and needles and feeling very anxious for whatever replacement plan might someday appear, so we can understand what the impact is. I'm sure you can understand then the anxiety that comes with the absence of that. Since 2017, when the little lobbyists first started to come together, we've been facing a future with threats to the Affordable Care Act minus a viable replacement, while our children's lives hang in the balance. It's been incredibly difficult and stressful for years, and that continues and feels more immediate with each day.
Well, thank you, Ms. Staggs. One of the things I try to emphasize in talking to people in Delaware is that The Affordable Care Act doesn't just protect the 20 million Americans who get their health care through ACA exchanges. It doesn't just protect the north of 100, maybe as many as 130 million Americans who have pre-existing conditions, now 7 million more because of this pandemic. It actually protects a majority of Americans. And this is relevant because we were this week considering a successor to Justice Ginsburg. It prohibits discrimination against women on the basis of gender. It doesn't allow insurance companies to treat pregnancy as a pre-existing condition or to charge more just because women are women. So it literally protects a majority of the American people. Let me close with just two questions, if I might, of Ms. Clark from the Lawyers Committee. Ms. Clark, my staff has identified, and I put up a board yesterday, of 120 Supreme Court cases that were decided 5-4 that I now believe are at risk of reconsideration or reversal if Judge Barrett is confirmed. One of these 120 cases is Grutter versus Bollinger. It's a 2003 decision that upheld the promotion of racial diversity in admissions at the University of Michigan. Just this past week, the Trump administration sued Yale University for its efforts to promote racial diversity. A case similar to that, the administration has also recently supported against Harvard. Can you explain the impact this case has had for the nation and the consequences if it were overturned?
Thank you, Senator, for that question. There are a number of critical cases in the Supreme Court pipeline, and some of the most high-stakes cases are cases involving challenges to race-conscious admissions policies at colleges and universities across our country. As you know, the Justice Department just recently and astoundingly sued Yale University. There have been similar suits brought against Harvard University, the University of North Carolina, the University of Texas at Austin. My organization is involved in all three of those cases, and they are on a fast track to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has held that race can be one among a number of factors that our colleges consider in pulling together their college classes. What's at stake here is racial diversity, just the principle of racial diversity. I am deeply concerned that a Justice Barrett on the Supreme Court would upend the precedents that have been firmly established in this area, and that would turn back decades of progress in our nation and result in colleges and universities that are not racially diverse, colleges and universities that lock the door on Black students and Latino students who are deserving of access, roll back the clock on equal opportunity. So I'm glad that you asked this question, Senator Coons, because it really underscores how high stakes this nomination is for our nation.
Ms. Clark, you did some important early work in your career on election protection. And President Trump and members of this committee have repeatedly attacked the validity of mail-in voting. Even though the president himself, members of his family, our troops overseas, our diplomats, routinely use mail-in voting as a way to cast their ballots securely, and there being no credible evidence of widespread voter fraud. We've actually, in reality, seen efforts by the administration to undermine the proper functioning of the Postal Service. We've seen the governor of Texas blatantly try to make it more difficult for voters to submit their ballots in a timely fashion in this upcoming election. We've seen lines between 5 and I think as many as 10 hours in the state of Georgia for those who are lining up for early voting stations. And the president has openly called for voter intimidation. Can you speak to the impacts of these impediments on voting, how they differ from the impact of any alleged voter fraud, and how this does or doesn't align with a long and tragic history in this country of voter suppression?
Ma'am, you certainly may answer the question just briefly if possible.
Yes, Chairman. Senator Coons, voter suppression is alive and well across our country. We see it each and every day in places like Texas, Georgia, North Carolina, states that were covered by Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act. We know that people are struggling to access the ballot amid the pandemic, and there have been lawsuits to tear down the unconstitutional barriers to the ballot. which is why Judge Barrett's views on voting rights matters, and which is why it has been very disturbing to listen to Judge Barrett this week express an unwillingness to acknowledge that voter intimidation is unlawful, to express an unwillingness to acknowledge that voting discrimination is ongoing and exists. And these cases are in the Supreme Court pipeline and on the court's docket, which is why, again, we oppose Judge Barrett's nomination to the Supreme Court. She will turn the clock back on voting rights in our country.
Thank you very much, Ms. Clark. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to all our witnesses.
Thank you.
One brief comment.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to thank you. This has been one of the best set of hearings that I've participated in. And I want to thank you for your fairness and the opportunity of going back and forth. It leaves one with a lot of hopes, a lot of questions, and even some ideas, perhaps some good bipartisan legislation we can put together to make this great country even better. So thank you so much for your leadership.
Well, one, that means a lot to me, and I know we have very different views about the judge and whether we should be doing this or not. But having said all that, to my Democratic colleagues, you have challenged the judge, you've challenged us, and I accept those challenges as being sincere and not personal. I don't think anybody crossed the line with the judge in terms of trying to demean her as a person. To the people on my side, thank you very much for being involved and, telling our side of the story and asking the judge about your concerns. One thing we can tell you, as long as there's Senator Grassley, there'll be a question about ethanol. To Senator Feinstein, you're a joy to work with. To our staffs, I know this has been very hard, a lot of pressure on both sides. To the people who set up the room, thank you. To the witnesses who chose to participate today, as private citizens, thank you. To the police officers who made this go well, thank you. To my staff who bore the brunt of this, I really do thank you. So what we're going to do now is end where we began. My view of the Affordable Care Act is different from South Carolina's point of view. We're getting about $1 billion less because of the formula. We're down to one exchange. We started with 5 and premiums have gone up. Those issues will be decided at the ballot box. It's close election everywhere. All I can say is that voting does matter, and I'm sorry that anybody has to wait in line. We need to make sure we deal with that as a nation. But voting participation in South Carolina is very strong. I am happy about that. This is a chance to have your say. The stakes are high, as has been well articulated here. But let me just say, the election will come, winners will be declared, and we get to start over. The thing I like most about democracies is a journey without a destination. When are we going to get there? We never actually do. When you're a child, you're wanting to get to wherever you want, you're excited about going. It really is the journey. And I don't know how this election's going to come out. I'm hopeful for our side. I feel good about it. But having said that, 2016 was a curveball in many ways. And I just don't know what's going to happen. But the more people vote, the better. And when it's all over, and it'll be over in a few weeks, I'll just say this. If I'm around, I will commit myself to starting over, looking forward, not backward. And to the Judiciary Committee, we've talked about things that really matter. We've had our differences, but we're talking about Section 230. I think that's mattering more every day. And the fact that we had a unanimous vote to make sure that social media outlets earn their 230 protection when it comes to protecting children against sexual exploitation, it's a darn good place to start. A lot of smart people on this committee, I mean incredibly smart about antitrust, about intellectual property. So this committee, in my view, even though we've had a rough ride lately, has the potential, if we all embrace it, to engage each other and make America a stronger, safer place. To my friend, Senator Lee, I don't think anybody likes their job more than you do. I've never seen anybody, Senator Coons, you're definitely in that category, who's so enthusiastic about the law and politics. I'll end with this. Judge Barrett, I have had an opportunity to witness several people apply for the job of being a Supreme Court justice. I've never met a more amazing human being in my life. Not from just the professor who helped the struggling young blind student and everybody else she's helped, but just your knowledge of the law, your disposition, your character, and the ABA rating, I think, was well earned. So the hearing regarding Judge Amy Barrett to become Associate Justice of the Supreme Court is now over. The markup will be October the 22nd. To all who got us here, thank you very much. So the hearing regarding Judge Amy Barrett to become Associate Justice of the Supreme Court is now over. The markup will be October the 22nd. To all who got us here, thank you very much.